Hey, this is Devin. Um, this would be the second installment of my nonsensical ramblings. First one was on the Physicist record, and this one is the companion for the digipack of the Terria record, which is the newest one, and I'll give a bit of a rundown as to the content and the people involved and the lyrics and all sorts of stuff in the next little while. I apologize for the kitschiness of the recording, but I'm down to the last minute and this is the only thing available to me. It's a handheld Panasonic RQ-L10, a little tape recorder thing. I think it cost me $25. And the cool thing about it is it was what I used for the entire making of the Terria record in order to collect ideas and to jot down things and record riffs and all this. I carried this little cassette recorder around for a whole year. The recording of the record, Terria, took a year. The recording and writing, I would say, actually. After Physicist, I was left sort of going, okay, now what? That didn't quite do it for me, now what? And Terria, the reason why I am as proud of it as I am is as a result of that, because it just came naturally. I just let the flow sort of go, and if I didn't feel like writing for a week, I didn't. If I didn't feel like writing at all, I didn't, and the music that came out as a result of it just being an evolutionary process was really natural for me, and I think it is really close to the vision that I had in my head originally as well. Terria's it's really actually quite full of life compared to Physicist, and it was just, again, I think just letting it evolve and sort of become what it became added a real relaxed feel to the process and made the record that as well. The artwork on the record was done by Travis Smith, who did an absolutely stellar job. And he was involved with it from the demo stages all the way through to the completion. So the artwork evolved with the record as well and became integral, in my opinion, to the experience of it, because you can sit back and just sort of have something to stare into. And he's really good at having multiple different layers of all sorts of things on his artwork, from visual to the actual metaphor of what he's doing. It's all there on multiple levels, and I think that works well with the record, because that was the intention that I was trying to achieve as well. Just a record that was calm yet sort of ugly in parts and weird in other parts, yet worked on quite a few levels for myself. As every record is, Terria was a page of my life. It was the genesis of it was actually written and started in the summer of 2000, where Strapping and Physicist and everything else, we all went on a tour across Canada, and it was the first time I'd actually toured Canada, and we did it in a van, and it was really grassroots and all that, and I got to see the country that I live in from a whole different perspective. It was the terrain is just unbelievable in Canada. There's valleys and mountains and prairies and water and lakes, and everything just seems to be just so emphasized on a just a terrain level. It's like everything just is a bit bigger or a bit broader or a bit more foreboding, and I just remember thinking to myself when we were driving, it was about 6 o'clock in the morning and the sun was coming up and there was prairies and a train, and I thought, yeah, this is where I live, this is Canada. And the song Canada came from that, just that sense of like, all right, we're on the road, everything's all right for the moment, and there's some beautiful things around. It's not a permanent feeling, but it was great to sort of write a record off of, just kind of like, okay, well, in the meantime, while everything is still in turmoil, at least the world is beautiful, whether or not human beings are, the world is, and is by itself the thing that will just keep going, you know what I mean? It's like long after we're gone, and whether or not we turn the place into a barren ball of rock, it'll still continue to turn, and beautiful in its own imperfection and all that. And so the idea of the terrain and the idea of the landscape and all that became a real push for me when it came down to formulating the record and figuring out what the theme was going to be. The psychological points for Terria, what I was trying to get across, I think a lot of it was trying to teach myself patience because I have none, and so with this one I just didn't try and push it, even though I was excited about getting the record finished and everything. I was like, no, just let it get done in its own time, and be happy with the progressions that you make, but there's always more to be made, so just take it easy and let it flow. And I think that worked actually for me to a certain degree, because the rewards of patience like that were just something I wasn't prepared for. The theme behind the record was very much, okay, well, I've spent the ages of 19 to 27 or whatever it was in this ridiculous little fantasy world that was sort of brought on by the fact that I sort of left reality when I was 19 and did the Steve Vai project, and every record after that it's just been deeper and deeper into this fantasy world, right? And when I finally was able to pull my head out of my ass and look around and say, okay, well, where are we at and what's life all about, and you're almost 30 now, and where does that put you and how do you feel about things? And Terria has that dreamy quality of like being lost in the netherworld, but it also has those moments of harsh reality where it's like, okay, well, things die and you have responsibility, and as a result of being in a relationship and being a business person to a certain extent and a musician above and beyond all that, it's like trying to make that all work together is a really strange occurrence to me. And I think that's summed up really well in the song Earth Day, where the lyrics are eat your beats, recycle, don't eat your beats, recycle. It's like either way you've made a choice, and the choice is what's important. But in the real world there's responsibility, and pretending you're a rock guy or whatever like that and trying to avoid that only takes you so far before you realize that it's like, okay, well, my career isn't actually that big. It's like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's quell the arrogance for a while and pick up the broom and sweep up the floor, or mop up the dog puke or whatever it is. So Terria basically states that it's kind of like, whoa, okay, here's reality, and I don't get it. Which is just, I think, the initial stages of it, and I think that embracing that reality will be more in the future. But for Terria, it was very much a confused issue for me, because I just didn't know how to deal with it and why it was happening and all sorts of things. But, that's it. It created music that was very strange, but cohesive at the same time, because I think accepting that responsibility perhaps makes you age a little bit, and becoming a man, which was the whole intention of the Physicist and Infinity side of things. I think realizing that, okay, you're an adult now is really strange, and that's a lot what Terry has to do with as well. My dog is sick, and we don't know if he's going to make it, actually. His name is Happy, and it looks like he may have cancer. And if that's the case, I'd like to go on record as saying that I tried to immortalize him to a certain extent in the song Mountain, where on the same tape recorder that I'm doing this ridiculous little speech, I had gone into the kitchen one day when it was dinner time, and Tracy and I goaded on Happy, and you'll hear him howling in Mountain because we're going, what do you want? Do you want supper? And he's like, "Ow!" And we do that, or have done that every night. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a little thing. The dog gets excited, we give him food, and blah, 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 blah. And so you hear Happy right after the breakdown section in Mountain howling and all that. So everybody put your best wishes forwards towards him, and he's an older guy, so if he doesn't make it through this, at least we can remember him on the record. The problem is every time we play that song, the other dog in the house freaks out because she thinks it's supper time, so we have to sort of play it sparingly and quietly. What else can I talk about? The players on the record, Gene Hoglan played drums, and he's a phenomenon in more ways than one. Craig McFarland played the bass from the band Mirv, M-I-R-V. Check out their website down in San Francisco. And Jamie Meyer played piano and the big string keyboards. The rest of the stuff is done by myself. I did the guitars, vocals, all the samples and ambience, and a mess of keyboards as well, actually. And again, Travis Smith did the artwork. I produced it and engineered it and mixed it and all that, but I had a good amount of help from the engineers that are listed on the record, but primarily Sean Thingvold, who is a really good guy and an excellent ear for things. And both him and I have got some sick fascination with the record Hysteria by Def Leppard, so we managed to sit around and analyze things for a long time in the mixing stage of it, which I think added to the sort of ethereal quality of it. Now the songs, Olives was written in Australia, and essentially it's just I wanted the record to start without people realizing that it had actually started, you know. With Infinity, and for Infinity in particular, it was like the record demanded your attention for as long as it was playing, and I think that's kind of rude, actually. And with Terria, what I wanted to do was I wanted a record that was more suited a situation with a couple of friends sitting around, you know what I mean, just having a good time. And there's dynamics in this one, the ups and downs, so when it demands your attention, it's enjoyable, but when it's time to chill out and go get a glass of water or order a pizza or something like that, there's times where the record has nothing going on, you know. It's just sporadic parts with, you know, voices and like little orchestras and things like that. So Olives sort of that's how the record starts, you know, to sort of like, don't pay too much attention, but then it swells and kind of gets your attention, and by the end of it, the crescendo just goes, well, okay, and then that's where everybody starts paying attention to the record, because it just gets really ugly and really persistent. And I spent a good 2 months on this record with headphones on, just doing things that you would only hear after listening to the record, you know, 50 or 60 times. I really wanted it to be like, oh wow, I never noticed that, or holy cow, what's going on there, you know? So it's like, it's a bit of a shame on a certain level, because you spend so much time on these parts, and these parts are so cool, but you hardly hear them, like, if at all, you know? So that's another thing with Terria, is I just wanted it to be subtle, so it had all that information going on that was going on in like Infinity and City and all that, but done in a way that it wasn't in your face, so it was just there to be found if you want to find it, but if you don't want to listen to it, it's just the songs, and that's cool. So Olive starts to sort of disarm people, and then that little acoustic bit between Olives and Mountain, that's just to sort of break it up. That's just to sort of go, oh, okay, well, what was that? And then all of a sudden when Mountain comes in again, it's like just devastating again, right? In my opinion. And Mountain sets a tone in singing about just like my home life, about taking out the garbage, and like, you know, it's beautiful but really weird. You know, I can't really. I'm gonna hold back from describing a lot of the more intimate details about this record, because I kind of went inward on an emotional level on this one, and I think if I bring up too much about it, then it would be capitalizing off of it, and that's kind of ugly. So I'll just give you a brief overview on the songs and what the vibe is about, as opposed to what the lyrics are about, and I'll leave you to fill that in if you're so inclined, and then I won't intrude on it. Mountain, again, I wanted it to be like a mushroom trip, you know what I mean? Like you start in one place and you just go up and then down, and it does all the thinking for you, all the noises and all the sounds and everything is there for you, so all you have to do is just absorb it. Then there's happy in it, and at the end of it, it just explodes, and I just wanted people to just drift off into that sort of murky chaos thing that happens at the end of Mountains, all that madness. And when you start focusing in on those little guitars that are playing those crunchy little solos and everything far, far in the distance, and that Chinese Oriental, Cantonese, whatever it is, thing talking there. It's like you get so deep into the quietness of that when Earth Day comes in, it's just like, wow, okay, here's the first real song on the record. You know what I mean? Like Mountain and Olives were great songs, but they're more just to disarm you. So when Earth Day comes in, it's like a 12-minute song of just glory. You know what I mean? I wanted it to be surreal and really huge, like just echoes on everything and just a world unto itself. Yeah, so this is a weird record for me. I apologize. I don't really want to explain the lyrics on it. So again, let's just continue talking about the record. So Earth Day's big. Then it goes into Deep Peace, which is all about deep peace and all that. No, I don't want to talk about it, actually. Let's just talk about more of the actual situation of the record. Terria is taking a look to the future. It's the first adult record I've made. It's the first one that hasn't been diluted, I think. Even on the cover, there's a good metaphor of the guy looking to that side, you know what I mean? And there's color and there's life and all these things, but at the same time there's death, right? There's the vulture up there. And yeah, I mean, it's coming to that point in my life now where I'm going to have to start dealing with death. I mean, I've still got both grandparents on both sides of the family, and nobody's really corked it, you know, and now I've got, you know, a few people that look like they're coming down with cancer, and the dog's got cancer, and all these things, you know. It's like all of a sudden you have to grow up and, you know, playing the ridiculous little games that come along with being in a band or being a musician or whatever. Just doesn't seem to cut it anymore, you know, when you're faced with the helplessness of watching something or somebody you love die. Then, you know, it's like none of this is important anymore. You know, the only thing that's important is the peace that they can hopefully find during their suffering, and the mercy that you can hopefully provide for them in terms of, like, you know, like trying to make their suffering easy. You know, and mercy, when I say that, I don't mean like you bestow it on somebody. It's almost more like, you know, at the end of the tunnel, at the end of the whole works, you know, it's throughout all the pain and all that, you don't want to see somebody disappear into chaos. You don't want to see somebody scratching and clawing their way towards death, you know, just afraid of it. I think it's more like just hopefully you can help them make their peace, and hopefully they can make their own peace, and you can be there for them, and, you know, that's it. I don't know. I have no idea. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when all this starts going down in my family and my life. But I think Terry opens the door for that, you know, and I think that because in the process of making records, I learned a lot about myself. This one I learned a lot about just dealing with responsibility, you know, and even though it's weird and even though I don't necessarily like it that much, it's still a good part of what's going on now, you know. So Terria summarizes that for me. What else? My dog sounds terrible upstairs. Happy just does not sound good, so I'm probably going to leave it pretty quickly at that, and catch you on the next record for the next installment. Again, I apologize for not getting too deeply into the lyrics of this one, but it's just getting too personal, you know what I mean? It's like I'm just writing about my life now, and I don't want to capitalize on that. I'd rather just leave it vague, and hopefully people can attribute it to their life as well. And, you know, because I'm 29 now, and God, I'm a dude, and there's probably a lot of 29-year-old dudes out there and their girlfriends, and perhaps they can understand what I was trying to put across with this. So anyway, I thank you very much for your support, and I thank you very much for purchasing or acquiring this digipack, and I hope that in the future we'll be able to provide you with some more interesting material, and I hope to see you on tour. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.